Thank you for joining us for this evening's event. My name is Nick, and I'm one of the event hosts here at Powell's Books. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to check out our lineup of upcoming virtual events by visiting our website at powells.com. One of the many events we're looking forward to is Michelle Zauner, indie rock star of Japanese breakfast fame, in conversation with Death Cab for Cuties Ben Gibbard about her new memoir, Crying in H Mart, this Thursday, the 29th. If you don't already do so, please consider following us on social media. So tonight, we are thrilled to welcome Jonny Sun and Samantha Irby back to Powell's. Jonny Sun is the best-selling author and illustrator of Everyone's an Alien When You're Aliebn Too, and the illustrator of Good Morning, Good Night by Lin-Manuel Miranda. He was the writer for the Emmy-nominated 6th season of Netflix original series BoJack Horseman. His work has appeared in The New Yorker, and McSweeney's Time magazine named him one of the 25 most influential people on the internet, and his TED Talk on loneliness has been viewed online more than 3.5 million times. Jonny's new book, Goodbye Again, is a collection of touching and hilarious personal essays, stories, poems, accompanied by his trademark illustrations, covering topics such as mental health, happiness, and what it means to belong. The pieces range from long meditations on topics like loneliness and being an outsider, to short humor pieces, conversations, and memorable one-liners. Jonny's honest writings about his struggles with feeling productive, as well as his difficulties with anxiety and depression, will connect deeply with his fans, as well as anyone attempting to create in our chaotic world. And it also features a recipe for scrambled eggs that might make you cry. Joining Jonny in conversation this evening is Samantha Irby. Irby is an American comedian, author, and blogger. She writes a blog called Bitches Gotta Eat, and she has co-hosted the Sunday Night Sex Show, performed in several shows, including The Paper Machete and The Story Club, and her work has appeared in The Rumpus, In Our Words, and Jezebel. She has written 4 books: We Are Never Meeting in Real Life, Meaty, New Year, Same Trash, and Wow, No Thank You. This evening's event will include an audience Q&A. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask a question. As well, if someone has typed a question that you'd also like to know the answer to, please upvote that particular question by clicking the thumbs up button. Most importantly, please consider supporting Jonny and Powell's by purchasing a copy of his new book from us. A link to Goodbye Again, along with Samantha's books, will be shared in the chat a couple of times this evening. Jonny, Samantha, it is such a pleasure to welcome you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us. This is so
nice.
Jonny, that bio is so fancy. My God, a time most influential person. That's big time.
Oh boy.
You're like King
I don't even
Mountain
know
over here. That's big time. Man, I am impressed. Okay, you're gonna read and I'm gonna shut up.
Yes. Before I do that, there was one thing that you said about the like Zoom dysmorphia thing, which I have a theory on.
Oh, okay, hit me.
And I think it's like a theory on just why we all think we look strange in photographs is because we only see the reflected version of ourselves.
Yes.
So like anytime we see a screenshot or a photo of us, it's the reverse of what we know we look like.
Yeah.
And so it's like who is that person?
And when I see it, like my left side like looks kind of like, I always look like that in pictures, and I'm like, why is no one shielding me from my own face?
Right. I've navigated the world knowing my left eye is smaller than my right, and then in pictures, my right eye is smaller than my left, and I have no idea.
Don't flip my face. I hate it. Yeah. Get that person out of here. Oh God, if I could get like approval on every single photo everyone ever took of me, like I would die happy. That's great. The ultimate happiness for me, is being able to like zap ugly pictures of myself from people's phones.
They should let you do that if the internet were truly like an equitable
There's no
place.
Justice. That's never gonna happen. Never.
Never. Shall I read?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll read a couple things. The first one. I'm going to share my screen for. I'm now screen share. Okay. This one is called, I'm trying to decide if I should buy 2 rolls of paper towel or 3. I'm trying to decide if I should buy 2 rolls of paper towel or 3. And if I buy 2 rolls of paper towel now, then they'll take up less space in the bag that I have to carry home. But if I buy 3 rolls of paper towel, then I won't have to go buy more rolls of paper towel again as soon as I would if I only bought 2. And of course, there's no right answer. Maybe if I find myself going back to the store to get more paper towels, suddenly be hit with inspiration on the walk there, or hit by a car on the walk there. And if I got 3 rolls of paper towel, then I would be avoiding that altogether, and I would be more prepared for spills, because what if I only got 2 rolls of paper towel and ran out and didn't have enough time to get any roll of paper towel? And then if I spilled something, I'd have to use a sheet of loose leaf paper to try to clean it up, but that isn't as absorbent and the spill would stain. But what if I got 3 rolls of paper towel and spilled something after my 3rd roll of paper towel ran out? And if I'd only gotten 2 rolls of paper towel, I would have run out of paper towel earlier and would have gone to get 2 more rolls of paper towel before this happened, and would be well stocked in paper towel by the time the spill came around. And really what I'm thinking is, maybe if I choose the right choice here and now in the paper towel aisle of the grocery store, then my life is going to change, and that this one small choice will butterfly effect itself into finally some new life. Because isn't that what we're always told, that every small action counts, that every one small thing can change someone's life? And so how are we not always folding under the pressure of every small thing mattering in the biggest ways? And so is nothing ever really a small thing? And even how many rolls of paper towel to get? And now I'm in a different store and I have found a shirt I love, but it fits me in 2 different sizes. And if a shirt fits in 2 different sizes, should I just get both and wear the larger shirt in context where the larger shirt would be better, and the smaller shirt in context where the smaller shirt would be better? And I wish there was no choice at all. But now I'm thinking, even if there was just the shirt in the one size, should I buy 2 identical versions of it? Because why would I not want a backup of a shirt that I found that I adore? Because do you even understand how hard it is to find a shirt that I love? And what would I do if something happened to it, like if I tore it, or if it slowly shrinks in the wash, which is incidentally another reason to get the larger size? And what if I spilled something on it? And why do I have this preoccupation with spilling? I don't think I've spilled anything in years, because one of the upsides of worrying about spilling things is that you're generally pretty careful about not spilling anything. But the moment you let your guard down is always when it happens. And what if the one time it happens is when I have an important job interview, or I have an important meeting, or it's just on a day where I have to interact with any person at all, or I'm just at home by myself. And even in that situation, it means I have ruined my shirt. And then I think, so what happens if my shirt gets destroyed and I don't have that shirt anymore? Well, I can always get it again, but then what if I look up the shirt and I find that the store no longer sells that specific shirt anymore? Or the store no longer exists anymore, because after all, everything is closing these days. So why would I not stockpile as many of these one favorite shirts as I possibly can before it disappears? But even if I do that, which of the 2 sizes should I get? Or should I just get a bunch of both sizes so I can decide later? And how are there 1,000 different choices of yogurt? And I don't even know if I want yogurt, but now I'm looking at all the kinds of yogurt, because now I'm in front of the milk and dairy wall, and now I feel like I have to decide, because there is a decision to be made, and I'm going to make the right one, because this yogurt is going to change my life when I decide which one it is. And I don't even know where to begin. Should I look at the sugar content first, or decide if I want fruit on the bottom? Or maybe I just start with choosing the flavor first, but what if the flavor I choose doesn't come in the yogurt type I want? Or what if my dad was right and I should only get fat-free yogurt? Or maybe whole milk would have a richer flavor and make me happier? And what is Australian style yogurt? Or what if I get food poisoning if I choose the one container that happens to have something bad in it? And it feels like there are too many variables, and it feels like I'm trying to decipher something that has 1,000 different translations, and which of those could ever be the right one? So I do what I always do in these situations, which is I text you and I ask for your opinion, so it can override my inability to make my own decision, and so your opinion can become my decision. But really, I'm just asking you so you will free me. And maybe it's because you're the only part of my life that never feels like a decision that I'm pressured to make, but it's also because I know what you will say is what you always say, which is just choose any of them. They're all good. Don't worry about it at all. And even don't worry about it at all is a decision, even if it's not the one I was trying to make. And when you say it, it doesn't hurt or diminish my feelings. And when you say it, it is freeing. And when you say it, I realized that that decision was the one I was trying to reach for on my own, but I just couldn't, through all this information in front of me that I had to decipher, and all this text in front of me that I had to translate. But now I am holding a blueberry flavored whole milk Greek style cup of yogurt. And now I am putting it in my basket. And now I am walking away from the dairy wall. And all I can find myself thinking is, it cannot be by coincidence that decide and decode are only one letter apart. The end.
That's so good. So me. I'm having anxiety sweats because that is that is me in every store I've ever been in
Oh, no.
in my entire life. Oh my
I'm so glad because I sweat every time I try to read that because I also like I keep trying to practice it, but I also keep like being terrified of practicing it, and so I just
Yes.
read it live
Yeah.
without practicing it, and then I screwing up, which kind of makes it work better, I think.
I am
Oh
always
man.
in awe of people who can walk into a store, know what they want, pick that thing that they want, and confidently choose it and walk out. Like I am
Yeah.
the person standing there doing mental gymnastics trying to figure out which one of these do I actually want. And the thing is, when it comes to yogurt, I know what I really want is ice cream. So why am I to begin with? I'm always shopping like somebody, like some invisible person is like watching my purchases. I mean, and nobody gives a fuck, but that's me. I'm like, that guy wants me to buy yogurt for my health. Like he could care less. He could not care less.
My thing is always like I feel like I go in with an intention. I know what I want, and then as soon as I get there, I forget every single item on my list, and I also like immediately change my mind on everything because everything I see is like every single item is a mental calculus of being like,
Yes.
do I want that? Do I not want that? Oh, I've decided. Okay, now I go on to the next one. And the thousand decisions.
While reading the book, I was like, oh, Jonny is just like me, where we both have been burdened with, I don't know what to call it, like, it's not foresight, but the thing where you can see the consequence of the consequence of the consequence, where you're like thinking really years ahead on the most mundane thing. Someone said analysis paralysis, and yes, that is
Yes.
it. Where it's like, I know if I do this, here's the bad thing that's going to happen, and here's the other bad thing, and here's the other bad thing. And I want to know if while you were writing about your anxiety, did you have, how many, not even did you, how many anxiety attacks did you have while you were writing?
It's I feel like it was an ongoing panic attack. I feel like it was there were so many things that I kept like seeing how it could potentially be like an inaccurate or like a wrong thing to say, and it would spin out into like someone interpreting it in like a way that I accidentally didn't mean for it to be interpreted, and then it just like spiraled into just like the book being terrible, or I like just there were so many like I feel like every line was like I have to look at this a million ways to make sure it's the right way to say it, and I feel like a lot of the book I didn't feel like I knew if I was saying it properly, and so I was like I will delete that piece. I will. The book slowly went down and down in terms of like how many things there were in it because I think eventually what happened was I think every piece in this book now is I think something that I feel like I said in the way that I wanted to say it, but there's even that question of like, is this my voice? Like, is this even like, did I write this sort of thing of like, and do I want to like put it in a book? I don't know.
I always feel that way too. I can't read other people's like autobiography, memoir, like that kind of thing, because I feel like I can't read them while I'm working on my stuff, because I feel like I just am gonna either imitate them or I don't know, feel bad about my own work and that it's not good enough. I'll read, like reading your book, I was like, ooh, I don't know how to draw. This is so good. I'm not doing another one. Like I truly am like, Yeah, I hope my editor is not watching, because I really was like, oh, I finished her book this morning and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to write anything for a week because this is really good and I don't want to
Oh.
embarrass myself. So if my next book comes out and has like little doodles in it, it's just an homage. It's an homage to you. One of the things you talk about that really struck a chord with me is like the benefits of anxiety, which for me, I
Mhm.
feel like I think about that. I think about ways to, because the anxiety never goes away. So like I always try to think like, how can I spin this so that this is a positive? And for me, I think that being
Yeah.
an anxious person has protected me from so many um potential pratfalls, like with the paper towels, how you never spill anything. I'm
Mhm.
the kind of person, I am the same way. I'm like, yeah, I would never fall down because I don't go anywhere. And if I do go somewhere, I walk very slowly and hold on to the side of the car so I never fall down. But I want to know, like, to you, what are the benefits, or how have you spun anxiety into a positive thing that you can like live with?
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I feel like the it feels more like how do I live with this kind of thing, and like how do I, it's always weird. I feel like it's so weird saying like the benefits of like something, but I think there is an element of like it's there's a version of it that you have to just understand how to live with it, right? And you have to understand like you can't just like hate yourself for like being this way your entire life. You like there's some like element of coming to terms with it, I guess, or like
Mhm.
to finding some, yeah, just some way to cope. um I don't know, I feel like I've something that's nice about anxiety, I think, is like it's well, one thing is like I'm a very anxious person in like talking and in thinking, and I found that like one of the only ways that I can really clarify my thoughts is when I start writing things down.
Mhm.
And I think like there's something that has like driven me um to writing, in the sense that like, oh, this is finally like a way where it feels like if I start writing something, my focus starts to clarify, and like everything else that is like all the million other things in my head sort of um, go away for a second, and I can focus. So I think like I guess like potentially without anxiety in my life, I might not have like found this thing that I love doing, which is writing and which is drawing, because those, I think I've turned to those things very much as a way to sort of um, cope with it and like and get it out of my head, or feel a little better about it, you know.
So writing for you is therapeutic. I always find it
I
as
think so, yeah.
like less therapeutic and more like get out of me. Like I have to expel these thoughts from my brain, and like I don't like them, they don't like me, but there they are on the computer screen and I'm going to send them out into the world and we'll see how they do.
Right. Right. Well, there's something too about being like perform my minions, like now this like thing that's in my head is now like now you're like doing stuff for me, go like
Mhm. Yeah,
go get read and like
go
be
tell the
responded
world who I
to and
am.
let
And
me like
yeah, that they're
exactly.
doing their job. I never feel like, you feel good after you like write about your mental and emotional stuff. I never feel like relieved. And I go into it being like, okay, I'm going to write about this mental prison in which I live and I'm going to feel great about it after
Mhm.
I get it out. And then I write and I'm like, I feel the same. Like I feel the exact same way. Do you feel better after you like write, or what is it like?
Oh man, I think I feel I feel better if I like can make it feel like sad or funny in a specific way. Like
Mhm.
I think there's like I think like there's a lot of like I think a lot of it is tied to me like I feel like I'm a constantly sad person and I don't know how to explain why. But then when I can put it into words and sort of like put it into words and make someone else feel sad in a way, like when I feel like I've done that, I feel a little bit like, okay, this kind of makes me feel better because now at least I can like explain myself and now I can like I can like give this feeling to somebody else. So it's not just mine. I think that's kind of nice.
I have a similar thing where, but mine is just like, if I can spin this so other people can like laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with me, but usually it's but like if I can spin this in a way that's funny and is useful to someone in that way, then it will have been both worth like experiencing it, but also worth the like, you know, blood, sweat, and tears of like typing it out. That's always I never like personally am like, you know what? I really solved that fucked up problem I was having. It's never that. It's always like, well, it's out. Hopefully people laugh. Hopefully people laugh at it. But like, maybe I should try trying to make people cry, because I mean, your book is like so like tender. It's also funny, everyone. Don't be bummed out. It's very funny too. But it's like so tender. And I was like, man, I wish I could like write tender stuff. I cannot. But
I feel like so much of your writing is tender.
I always feel like it's a removed, it like I feel like so I can't write about things until I feel like so emotionally divorced from them that it's almost like like it happened to someone else. Like, do you get to that place? Do you write while things are fresh, or what when do you process it? Do you like talk to your therapist and then write about it? How do you do it?
I think I need time. I think like I really if I try to write it fresh, it's like it's a bit of a mess because I don't I'm not sure like what exactly it is I'm trying to figure out. But I think sometimes I'll write about it and then like keep it and then like edit it way later. Like a lot of the pieces in the book started out way longer. And then in looking back at it, I'm like, oh no, all this stuff was like me trying to like find ways around it or find ways to avoid talking about it. And like there's like a quarter of this piece that actually is the thing that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I've just been like avoiding or like stalling to talk about it. But I also want to say that like, and someone said in the comments, like your work is so sad and touching and gentle too. Like
Sometimes.
in We Are Never Meeting in Real Life. Like
I do
that essay broke me.
Oh, I do. I sometimes can pull it out, but most of the time I'm like, let's be stupid and make like fart jokes. Cause I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but fart jokes are my way of processing. I don't go to therapy. I'm just like, how can I make this about poop? And then get someone to pay me for it. So when in the beginning of the book, you talk about the productivity trap, which in these pandemic times is like buck wild that we're still like clinging to what we should be doing and what we're not doing and ways that we've fallen off. And I just wanted to thank you for like putting voice to that feeling of like, am I doing enough? What am I doing? How do I prove to people that I'm actually working and producing and making things? And I didn't even really have a question. I just wrote the productivity trap. So could you talk about that?
I would love to.
Like I really loved it, and then I didn't formulate a question. It was like, pay Jonny a compliment about productivity, and then I didn't write a question. So
no, it's lovely. It's perfect. I think yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that I've lived with like my whole life, just like feeling like, um, I think probably tied to like feeling like I myself have no value. So like I have to make stuff in order to be like seen as valuable, or in order to be perceived as like worthwhile for people to like interact with or to know at all. There's like that. I think there's that element of like a lack of confidence, and that like tied with anxiety and depression. Um, and then I also just think there's that pressure to produce, that we all sort of are like, we're living under that kind of capitalistic overwhelming society where I think especially in the pandemic, when it's like, oh, we're not doing anything else, we might as well be, or like people are saying like, you might as well be working all the time, because what else do you have to do now? Like, you don't even have to drive to the place that you're working, you can just be working all the time. That has been even worse, I guess. I think I mean, it kind of messed with me. The book is like a weird paradox, because I think I'm writing a lot about like the pressure to work, but at the same time, like the book became another thing that like created that pressure for me, where like we're truly like healthy about these things. I feel like the book wouldn't exist, because I could just like have these thoughts and be like, oh, this is great, I will let these thoughts exist like in my head, or just like freely, without having to turn it into a project. But instead I was like, oh, I have these thoughts, this must be the start of something, and I can't let them like go unvalued, so I have to like, now I have to turn it into another product. So I don't know. Sorry.
The pandemic is weird for, I mean, people who, well, I don't want to speak for other people. For me, it was weird because I was like, man, you know, like I write about myself, there's nothing interesting that I'm doing at home. So what am I gonna, I don't have anything to write about. And I truly haven't written anything about anything. And I have a book due in December, didn't start it, haven't thought about it. I kind of wrote an outline, but then I was like, well, what am I going to talk about? Like buying stuff off QVC, which actually I'm going to write about buying stuff off QVC because I'm obsessed with QVC. But it is hard. Like, it's like people are dying and I'm like, I should do some work. Like, I have all this time and my laptop's right there. I should really put some thoughts down. But it's like bonkers that we feel that we should be doing things all the time.
Yeah, I feel like there's also an element of like, one of my like anxiety, like the things that like my anxiety spins out into a fear about this book is that people will read it and think like, why is this person complaining about working when like they have work to do, which is like, I don't know if I have an answer to that, aside from like the idea that like, isn't that like another symptom of like how inundated like with work our culture is, that like we have to be seen as like we have to be grateful to have this work, and it's all, I feel like there's a lot of, it's like, it's hard.
I feel like, okay, as a person with many books that I have been like, who needs this? Who wants to hear me whining about shit that I hate? There are going to be bad faith people who like just ask you questions like that or think things like that just because they're assholes. But I feel like the people who care about like you and your thoughts are always going to be like, yeah, I'd read your grocery list. Like if you put it to paper, I will read it. And you just have to think about those people. Otherwise, you'll never write anything, because no one needs, I mean, we're not doing brain surgery over here. No one needs the shit that we do. I mean, they don't need the shit that I do. Like, people don't need to hear me like talking about going to the toilet, but those who want to appreciate that. So I'm going to write you a little mantra where you just like, I mean, and we can get into this if you want, but I have sort of set up my social media in a way to shield me from cruelty. And I have found that, like, if you just think about the people that actually care about what you do, the people who like respond to you and have bought your books and like post about you, it makes like being a person who puts their vulnerability out into the world in whatever way, like whether you're complaining about work or complaining about diarrhea or whatever it is, that helps keep you going, keep you from spiraling into despair. Because there's always going to be someone who's like, this isn't revolutionary, who cares about your plants? But like, I care about your plants, and I want you to keep writing about and talking about them so I can follow their little plant journeys. So if you need a pep talk, I'm always here, because I spend my days in a constant loop of like, it's okay that you do this. It's okay that your job is writing about your feelings. That's okay. It's all right. So I always read the acknowledgements first. One, because I'm always looking for my name, even if I don't know the person who wrote the book. I'm like, they want to thank me. But also because I just want to see like, who do you know and what did you say to them and all that stuff. And you wrote, writing is a lonely act that summons all the people who have shaped you. And I was like, that's like profound and incredible. And it truly is like the experience of writing about yourself and your experiences. It really does bring all your stuff right back, like whether it was from yesterday or 5 years ago. And I want to know, like, how do you feel like sitting in those memories? Do you like welcome it, or is it like, I don't want to write about this thing that's going to make me think about this person, but I'm doing it anyway? Like, what is that like?
Yeah,
when all your ghosts come back?
Yeah, that's a great question. Also, like, I do the same thing where I read the acknowledgements first. I always talk to my wife of reading the acknowledgements, and she's like, I never read the acknowledgements. Who reads the acknowledgements? And I'm like, it's the best. It's like you know, at the end of the movies when they have like at the very end of the credits, it's the special thanks, and like somehow Brad Pitt is always in the special thanks.
Like, thank you to the city of Norwalk, Connecticut, and like all that kind of shit. Yeah,
right? I am fascinated because I just want, like, I wish there was like a map or like a database of all the people who like are connected just through the special thanks. But I also like that was like an excuse too to like slip an extra essay in there, because I also have no idea how to end anything.
Me too. Okay, I just saw this question go by that I'm gonna slip in here because you can answer them both together. How do you know when your book is done? Do you feel it's never done and the publisher has to pull it out of your hands, or are you DONE and can't wait to get it submitted? Okay, so my question is about the people who shaped you, and Linda's question is about finishing a book.
Perfect.
You can answer.
I will. Okay.
I believe.
Now I have them like queried up, queried up. I have them queued up. I have the queries queued up. I think on the things that shape me. I think a lot of it. Well, I don't actually know how like ideas happen to somebody, you know, like I think a lot of it is I'll be in like the shower or like doing something else or like doing the dishes, and there's like something will bother me. And most of the time I think like it'll disappear. And then maybe a week later, if it like comes back, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should pay attention to that. And I think I've gotten that act of like that practice of like writing about yourself and like kind of turning all your like your pain and experiences into like work or product is an interesting one, because I think I've learned to when something feels like it shows up in my head, I'm like, oh, I should just write that down. I should, like, whatever it is, it probably isn't anything, but let me write it down and explore it, because I don't want to like let it pass by, which
Mhm.
also I think is tied to that like that productivity trap of like, oh no, like now my work consists of like mining myself
Uh-huh.
for value. And so any potential piece of thing that I can mine, I need to, or else like I'm wasting my own self,
Yep.
which is also terrifying.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, how do you? What is your like? How do? I'm sorry, I'm gonna flip this question onto
No,
you.
I'm into it. Um, I when writing about like people I used to know, I am always like super trepidatious. I don't know if you have to like I always have to like talk to a lawyer, like the publisher's
Mm.
lawyer. The lawyer has to read my thing and make sure we're not going to go to jail or, you know,
Oh.
be sued into the ground. And the first time I ever talked to him, he was like, listen, anything that happens to you, even if it involves other people, belongs to you. It's your
Mm.
story too. You just have to be careful with how you tell it. So I like thinking about old things and all, you know, all that stuff like coming up when I'm writing. I am always terrified of how I'm going to feel after. I'm like,
Mm.
oh, that's a really funny anecdote, but it involves this bitch I don't talk to anymore, blah, blah, blah. You know, like I go through all that and then I get through it and I'm like, okay, hopefully she'll read this and like we can be friends again, or she'll like think, oh, that was funny. You know, I'm not calling this bitch anymore, but that was funny. So I do like kind of, I'm like afraid of the ghosts. Excuse me, our house phone is ringing. I don't know if you guys watching even know what that is. Um, but I am always like relieved when it's done. I'm like, somebody said it's her calling. Probably.
That's great. That's so funny.
I am always like relieved when it's over. Like I spend a lot of time being afraid of old stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then once I work through it, I'm like, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
That ghost can go to bed. Like I feel okay with it. How do
Yeah.
you know when a book is done? Are you how do you do it?
I this one specifically, I don't for people who like had followed kind of the release schedule of this book, it got it got delayed. It was originally supposed to come out in March. And then internally before that, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this out loud, but like internally before that, it was scheduled to be published November 2020. Which first of all, what a horrible month to publish a book.
Good Lord.
It was supposed to come out, I think, 3 days
Are
after.
you shitting me?
And, I
Mm-mm.
guess like luckily this was a really hard one to do because I think like I kept it was a struggle, I think, because of all the things we're talking about. It never felt like it was properly done, and I think like if I were to look at this again, I could probably be like, oh, I could work on this more. So this one for sure, it sort of had to be pulled out of my grasps, and the deadlines kept shifting because I kept like needing more time, and it was a
Were they
difficult.
cool about that? I always go over my deadline and they're always like, girl, this ain't that good. Turn it in. You know, like you're not frantic, bitch. Turn the shit in. We can't keep giving you time.
I know. I can't tell how much like I still at this point don't know objectively how cool they were with it, because like I got so terrified in my own head, and like the the scary, like the anxiety thing was like, oh, I know I'm gonna be late, so I'm just not gonna tell them that I'm
Oh,
gonna like
oh, that's
be
my
late.
trick too.
But then it's the worst, because then you like you just spiral and you're like, oh my gosh, they somehow know, they haven't heard from me, it's a week before the deadline, they haven't heard from me, they know I'm going to be late, and now they're mad at me. And like
Yep.
this is from no conversation with them at all.
Yeah. Whenever there's a big gap in my Instagram posting, you can guarantee it's because I owe somebody some work. And I'm like, ooh, they follow me on Instagram. I can't post or else they're gonna know I'm alive. And I need them to think that maybe I'm dead, which is why I haven't turned this work. It's so stressful. Why can't we do anything on time? I mean, me. Why can't I do anything on time? I won't speak for you. But God, it's a nightmare. I'm a like, do it at the last minute so I have no choice but to turn it in. And then I get the edits back and I'm always humiliated because I read them and I'm like, oh, it's because I wrote this at 2 a.m. You know, like 2 a.m. the night, like the day she said she wanted it. And then it like looks like I wrote it at 2 a.m. And I'm like, oh, they probably think that I'm so stupid. They're really trying to like get me out of my contract. They're like, can you give us that money back, please? I'm like, oh, why? We have worked for the same people, Raphael and Lisa, and I want to talk shit about them because I know they're not watching. Just kidding. I think I saw Raphael said he was going to try to tune in.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
They are great bosses. I worked for them on Tuca and Birdie. You worked for them on BoJack Horseman.
On BoJack.
What do you think of them as bosses? We can really keep it between us and these 172 people who are watching. And my second question is, which do you prefer, solo book writing or TV group writing?
Great. I thought your question was going to be what do you think of them as bosses and which do you prefer, Raphael or Lisa?
What if I did that? They're recording this.
I'm not answering my question.
We will never work in Hollywood again, baby. They'll be like, I hope your book deals were for $10 million because you guys
you're out of here.
Good job. Oh my God. What if I asked you that? I mean, I would text you that. And then be like,
I love both of them.
I'm screenshotting this in case you cross me. They're amazing to work for. Okay, I don't even remember what I asked you. Say whatever you want.
They are so lovely. The entire experience of writing for BoJack Horseman was like a dream because I was such a fan of the show for so long, and I'm sure people who like have read my work know or can probably see the like correlations between kind of like Raphael and Lisa's kind of brains and tones and energies and the type of work that I like to do, which is also very like silly and funny, but also emotional and deals with both of those kind of poles and how they interact with each other and like play off of each other. And that like BoJack had deeply influenced my first book, Everyone's an Alien, and also like continues to influence my own writing. And so the fact that like I got to work and write for that season, it honestly felt like I was writing fan fiction like for the entire like for the first like half of the like time there. It was very out of body where I couldn't believe I could say something like, well, what if Mr. Peanut Butter said this thing? And that might appear in the actual show. But I think to also like to their credit, to Raphael and Lisa's credit, and to like everyone who worked on the show's credit, they were just like the best like mentors to sort of to know. Like it was just phenomenal. Everyone was phenomenal. It's amazing too because there's such sharp and like satirically minded people and like can really like cut a person down, as you know from like working with them and working on the show. But like they are also such sweethearts, like every single one of them, that that combination is amazing, that you can be so biting and so lovely at the same time. It's great.
For me, it was weird because I have a very like literal brain, and so it was like thinking of, you know, in cartoons you can do whatever. And so it took me a while, I think, to catch up. Plus the room was already together and I joined late, and I was like the new person. It was all on Zoom and I was the new person who was like, hi. But I think one of the things, like, Lisa is just she's like a good decider. She's like, yes, that, no, not that, like really quickly, which I appreciate. And Raphael's ability to like zoom out and see the whole picture, which I'm not very good at. I'm like, in this moment, this funny thing should happen, and then this should happen. And then, you know, Raphael will pull out and be like, well, in the broader scope. And I'm like, oh, I would never have thought of that because I'm a moron. So it was like amazing to watch them work. Do you like TV writing? Do you prefer TV writing?
I adore TV writing. I like adore, and like I think it's partly because I used to, like, when I was in high school, I was like a drama kid, and I would like write plays with my friends, and then like in college I like was part of a comedy group and stuff, but there was always that spirit of like writing with other people and then like performing stuff with other people, and that like I think that social element is like the reason I became a writer in the first place. Or like I wanted to write to like impress people that I wanted like them to be my friends, right? Or like I was trying to write to like because I had a best friend who also liked to write, and I wanted him to think I was funny, and I wanted to continue to write with him, right? Like there was always that element of like, this is how I get like the best version of me, or like some like funny version of me crystallized, so I can like convince other people that I'm nice, or that I might be worth talking to. But that social element, I think, was like, that's the hard part about writing a book, because it feels so solitary so much of the time, and constant thing of like, is this good at all? Do people care? Is this funny? Is this sad in the way I want it to be? Does this sentence make sense? That's a hard one to like, am I like, just on a base level, even without thinking about like humor, emotion, meaning, is it like, will someone understand the literal like thing I'm trying to say, which I get so wrapped up in. And yeah, but I think writing with a group is so great because go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the alone part, the not getting feedback until the end when you're writing a book is, and for me, it's like the added thing of getting feedback from people who are employed basically to tell me that my stuff is good. You know what I mean? Like the people who I'm writing the book for aren't going to be like, this is garbage. And so it's like, well, I don't have any feedback from any real people. And then I'm going to turn it into people who are like going to be really nice and delicate with me about how bad it is. And then that part is just like, it's like gut wrenching. But in a writing room, it's like, you know, right then this thing is going to work or it's not going to work. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. Whereas like writing a book is just like months and months of like pouring yourself into a thing. And then you wait 6 months or however long it takes your editor to like get it back to you. And then you spend that whole time being like, hope it's okay. I'd like to change these essays another 5 times, but I already turned it in. It's like that part is super hard. I'm gonna look at these questions because I don't want people to think that I'm ignoring them. Okay.
Can I add one thing about the writer's room thing?
Yes, please.
It's like, there's also like such a cool, well, yeah, first of all, it's like, it is devastating to pitch something that it doesn't work, because you say it and you try. The thing about like a writer's room too is like, you have to convince yourself first, right, that like the thing you're gonna say is a good idea, and then you get so like amped up in like pitching it, and the worst is when you say it with such confidence and it's just a room full of like silence and blankness, and sometimes everyone is just like, Okay, anyway, I thought that like maybe I was like,
Oh my God, that perfect pause before the okay anyway. It's devastating. It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
oh, man.
My strategy is, at least in Zoom, well, and in some physical rooms I've been in, I just really think about a thing for a long time and say nothing else. And then finally, like when it's quieter, they're like, Sam, you haven't said anything. Then I say the thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it sounds profound because I've held it in for 45
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
But it doesn't like, it does, you know, they could still like write it off, but at least it's like, I'm like, you know, I've been thinking this entire time about this one thing. And if you don't like it, it's going to make me feel bad because I haven't said anything else. And usually I sneak shit in that way.
Right.
Try
But
it
it's
next
also,
time you're in a room. It's just like,
there's
make
also-
them wait. Make them wait and then drop your pitch on them and they'll be like, whoa.
Yeah, that's true. There's
She's so
something cool
thoughtful.
about being in a writer's room too, of like everyone, like you learn that like these other people think the same way you do. Like
Mhm.
finally you're like around other people who are constantly also asking like, does this work? Does this make sense? Is this even anything? And like just to be around, like it's like you get to export your own anxiety to
Yes.
8 other people or however many other people there are.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's not just your worry. And
Yeah.
that's lovely.
It's really great. I could be like, you know, looking and I'm like, oh, Lisa's anxious, Raphael's anxious, Shauna's looking away. You know, it's like, these are my people, a bunch of anxious comedy people sweating through their clothes while talking about the lives of people they've made up. It's really, it's incredible. Okay, we have a few minutes. Oh, Chick is here. and LOL. Chick the best. Chick, we miss you.
Oh man.
Okay.
I love you, Chick.
Oh, okay. Do you draw on paper or digitally or both?
The first book, Everyone's an Alien, I did all on paper. I did with a thick marker and did it all. And then I planned to do all this drawing on paper, but it was the pandemic and like I don't have like a high quality scanner in my space. And so I was forced to do it all digitally. I did it on a tablet. The thing that I really tried hard to do is to make sure like there were like imperfections. I don't know if this helps at all to like put this book here, but like just like there were like tiny imperfections in like the thickness of the line and like tiny like kind of wiggles that I was really trying to make it feel hand drawn, even though it's all digital. But like I feel my thing about digital. Well, my thing about digital is like sometimes there's that smoothness where you can tell like, oh, this was done and it was like smoothed out. And I wanted to do the opposite of that. And I wanted to, so I really got into like learning how to do the brush settings in Photoshop and like finding different like brush presets and like things to mimic the exact type of like felt tip that I wanted. So my hope is that I like that people ask that question because that means I think I successfully got the feeling of a hand drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about art, so I just assumed, I didn't assume anything. I was like, these are cute. I wish I could do it. But I do not think anything about how you got it done. So that's dope. Let's see. Which of your plants is your most favorite?
Oh man. I'm gonna answer the same thing that I answered the other time. But one of the benefits of like being in your own space doing these talks is you can like bring props on and like.
Oh my God, we have those same chairs. I mean, it
Oh,
doesn't
really?
matter, but yes, we have the
These
same.
like uncomfortable metal chairs.
Yeah, we got them.
Great. These are moss balls. I think they're called Marimo moss balls. But they just sit in water and they don't grow at all. They grow a millimeter a year. And
God.
I love them because they're so baffling. Because you're like, why have this thing that sits in still water that looks kind of gross?
How do you know if it's like dead?
They'll turn color. So I think they'll yellow out and then they'll turn brown when they're dead. But they don't do anything. And I love that, like, I think in the book I write a lot about like the slowness of growth and like noticing that things move. But I really love that the moss balls don't really change that much, that they're very static, but they're still alive.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Oh, can I do one more question?
Yeah, feel free. Go ahead. Go ahead. Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. I feel like we did. Oh, someone said, who do we have to talk to in order to get a buddy cop, buddy criminal movie or series starring the two of us?
Yes.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like we're at the point in our careers where we know people we could call to make that happen.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
We just talked about how great Raphael and Lisa are.
Yeah, I hope they heard that and are going to produce our buddy comedy. It'd be great. It's going to be the kind of buddy comedy, though, where like you're in your house, I'm in my house, and maybe we get together and like talk about crimes we would solve if we weren't anxious messes.
You know what? You know what would be a great buddy? I would do a buddy heist movie, I think, but I'd also do one where like, you know how there's like the character in the chair, like the person who is telling everyone what to do? If we were both that, like we were the two people in a chair, like the crew couldn't decide, or like we were both like we were both friends with like the mastermind, and so he was like, I got it. They can both do it. They'll work it out. And then we just are both in our chairs trying to figure it out while everyone is like listening to conflicting information because we can't get it together.
Great. I just had a meeting at Sony a couple weeks ago. I'm going to call them and pitch this and see if they'll give us millions of dollars to make it.
Love it.
Great.
Well, I can't wait for that show. I'm looking forward to it too. So thank you so much, both of you. It has been amazing having you both here tonight, Jonny, Samantha. Thank you so much for joining us. Please consider purchasing a copy of Jonny's new book on Powells.com. Yes, and Samantha's books too. We shared links for all those, or look them up on Powells.com. And yes, please support both of them.
Oh, Jonny, get out of here. Yours is right here. Buy this one. Very good. I'm going to write my name on the pretend I wrote it.
Yes, those are great too. We got them both. We got them both here. They're wonderful. Thank you. So,
thank you.
Yes. And please check those out on Powells.com. And while you're there, check out our lineup of other future virtual events. And once again, thanks again for you so much, and have a good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Samantha. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jonny. You're the best.
Oh, you're the best. This was so fun.
This was great.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Everyone.